What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome to 2019 now. Wow, 2019. If I start slipping and saying 2018, just forgive me. It's going to take a couple weeks to get used to it. Hopefully you guys had a great holiday season. I sure did. Got to spend the last week or so with the family. I've pretty much been in front of this computer and that camera since like July, so I haven't seen them much. Really enjoyed the past week or so. Hopefully you guys did as well. And here you go, 2019, we've got a lot of changes coming, right? I've been telling you guys for weeks, hey, a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of stuff coming. Well, it's starting. As you can see, we have a new layout on the screen. Hopefully you enjoy that. Also had some major announcements over the past few weeks. And if you're subscribed to the channel, you may know about these already. If you're not subscribed, you may want to click that subscribe button, go check these out. First thing, we now have some merchandise. If you guys want to, show off some Headliner Nation swag, got a link down below. We've also had 2 huge free agent signings. That's what I'm going to call them anyway, even though they weren't really free agents because we're just normal. Never mind. Not going to get into it. First, Kyle Richardson, huge addition to the channel. If you're familiar with Kyle, him and I did some shows on the Roto Baller channel this past season. He's coming over here to help do some content here with me this season. Not only fantasy football, though. Kyle knows just as much almost about fantasy baseball as he does football, and we're going to bring that here to the channel 2019. So if you're interested in even starting fantasy baseball, maybe you've played for years, we got you covered. Maybe we can help you win another championship, because I've been seeing these comments for weeks. People saying, hey, I won our fantasy championship. Congratulations out there to all of you guys. Really appreciate the support. Glad to have been able to help and be a small part of that. Another big free agent signing, Ryan O'Connell. And if you're not familiar with him, go check out that post. He's somebody with an extreme amount of DFS knowledge. I could sit here and pretend to tell you what to go do with all your DFS things. But I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you. I'm not a DFS master. Yes, I break down games and analysis, but my specialty has been season-long leagues, not so much DFS. So what did I do? I went out and found somebody who knows DFS. Who actually, lives it and breathes it and really understands the ins and outs of it. I didn't just go give my buddy a show. So look for that. That's coming next week also. Make sure you welcome both Kyle and Ryan to the channel when you see their videos pop up. I'd really appreciate it. Some great guys who have the same vision that I do to build a community, a positive community full of people just wanting to enjoy sports content. But now, got all that out. Let's get into the matters at hand. It's 2019 and it's NFL playoff time. We're talking about the Colts and the Texans first, and I'll be doing a matchup game like this for every game in the NFL playoffs here this week and going forward all the way through the Super Bowl, so make sure you're looking out for that. But this is the first game we're going to get to, Colts at Texans. A matchup of 2 teams that were, they were like 4-12 last year, but yes, they didn't have their starting quarterbacks. Watson was out with his ACL tear. Luck was out with his arm issues, shoulder issues, all kinds of issues. That was a total hush-hush secret for a long time. So you can't really hold against their records for them for last year. But then they started off this year, and they weren't very impressive. Again, the Colts started out 1-5, the Texans 0-3. However, they kind of meshed, and they clicked, and they finished strong. And if you can finish with the ways that these teams did, you're going to make the NFL playoffs. Both the Colts, they finished 9-1, and the Texans finished 11-2. You do that, you're going to make the playoffs 9 times out of 10, and here we go, we see them again. But these are teams that are familiar with each other, right? They've already played twice this year. They've each won a game by a field goal. Back in Week 4, Texans won 37-34. Week 14, Colts 24-21. Been a close matchup, both games, each team winning 1. Kind of why you see the spreads and everything so close. This is definitely 2 teams that know each other. They've been used to each other. But we'll start off on the Colts side of the football first. And the Colts, well, let me rephrase that. T.Y. Hilton and Andrew Luck have absolutely obliterated the Texans. I feel bad for them. I mean, they have had no mercy on their souls so far this year, and I expect a little bit more of the same again this week. Luck and T.Y., like I said, absolutely killed it. These are just numbers from the 2 games that they played this season. T.Y. in 2 games, 13 catches, 314 yards, just missed a 200-yard game by 1 yard back in Week 14. Luck, in those 2 games, 863 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'll take those numbers all day long. Also had Eric Ebron get a touchdown in both games, because we know Eric Ebron doesn't suck anymore. All of a sudden, he's fantasy viable. He's a legit NFL tight end. Yes, he's had some injury concerns here later in the season. He was on an early season tear. He's kind of cooled off a little bit. but he's also had a touchdown in each matchup against the Texans. So be on the lookout for an Eric Ebron sighting again this week. Week 14, though, it was the one game that Marlon Mack played. He wasn't there for the Week 4 game. Went against him Week 14, and he kind of struggled. He had 14 carries, but only 33 yards, did manage to get in the end zone. So if you had him for fantasy football, it kind of helped your day a little bit. But 14 carries for 33 yards is not what you would call efficient. The defense of the Colts is something we need to talk about, though. This is a very underrated defense. A lot of people don't know about the Colts. They don't care about the Colts. They don't know anybody on the Colts defensive side of the football. They're a very solid defense, and they're led by Darius Leonard. He's a rookie, and he led the NFL in tackles. The guy is an absolute beast. He's a monster, and he has really solidified the linebacking role for the Indianapolis Colts. Definitely a defense that you need to be worried about. This team is playing with like the utmost confidence right now, right? Like I said, they finished 9-1. They believe in themselves, and they have momentum going into the playoffs. Definitely a team that I would be worried to play. The Texans have a lot of great things on their side of the football, but the Colts are a little scary, and I think the reason they're so scary is because they're so underrated. A lot of people, like I said, just aren't familiar with the Colts. They're a smaller market team that really wasn't seen on a nationwide level, probably really until Sunday Night Football last week for the most part. Definitely a solid squad in Indianapolis. Now, let's talk about the Texans, right? Let's see what they got going on their side of the football. This is Deshaun Watson's first ever playoff appearance. It seems like he's been playing football for a while, but it's really only his second year. Last year, his rookie season cut short when his knee ligament snapped like an old dried up rubber band. Now, all of a sudden, he came out here and he did something that no other quarterback in history has done. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns in the air, and then added another 500 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. First ever QB in history to do that. DeAndre Hopkins also had a career year, 115 catches, 1,572 yards. Another solid year. And listen, every defense that plays against the Texans, they know DeAndre Hopkins is going to get the ball, and they can't stop him. Even though it's a solid defense for the Colts, that doesn't mean you just shut down DeAndre Hopkins. The dude is an athletic freak and can make catches with his... never mind. I'm not going to... You could see it, though. He made catches with nether regions at some point this year. Dude is impressive. But after DeAndre Hopkins, what is there? Demaryius Thomas is on IR. Will Fuller's like perma IR. He's always hurt. It sounds like we may get Kiki Do You Love Me back this week. He's been injured with a hamstring injury the past few weeks. It's a chance he plays, which is great because that would take a little bit of the focus off of DeAndre Hopkins. It would at least give Deshaun Watson another option in the passing game because really, after Kiki, who is like barely under 300 yards on the year because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, the next best wide receiver on the roster doesn't have any more than 216 receiving yards on the season. And more than likely, you don't even know the guy's name. It's not a whole lot of options there for Deshaun Watson, so hopefully Kiki can come back, give him that other option in the passing game. Lamar Miller had a decent year, missed 1,000 yards rushing, but he was the 23rd ranked running back in PPR leagues for fantasy football, but he struggled against the Colts. In 2 games against the Colts, he had 28 carries for only 82 yards. That's 2.9 yards per carry, and that goes back to what I talked about with the Colts defense being underrated and Darius Leonard. It's a solid defense for Houston, though. I mean, we can't go and not talk about like J.J. Watt and his resurgence this year coming back from injury. 16 sacks on the year. Definitely a huge part of that defense. A defense that's great against the run. They've allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards per game on the season, allowing only 83 yards per game on the ground. Definitely a great run defense. However, on the other side, they're ranked 28th as far as passing yards given up per game with 260 yards per game. That's 28th out of 32. And what does Andrew Luck like to do? He likes to throw the football. I expect them to get Marlon Mack and even Nyheim Hines more involved in the passing game this week. Because if they can really open up that passing game, get T.Y. Hilton and everybody involved in Eric Ebron, that will then open up the running lanes for Marlon Mack. If that's the case, say goodbye to the Texans because they're not going to be able to contain both facets of the game of the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, the Texans are the small favorite, but if you ask me, who do I like in this game? Based on all the facts and all the numbers, I'm taking Andrew Luck and the Colts to win this game. But it's going to be a good matchup. I think when you get a matchup like this with 2 teams who are familiar with each other, who've seen each other, they kind of have to bring something new out the third time, right? Because they've already been able to watch film on them for 2 weeks. They're familiar with it. Look for some fun in this game. It's going to be exciting. But if you're asking me, Colts win. All right, so there's my matchup for this AFC wildcard game. Got a lot of other matchups coming. I'm going to be breaking down every matchup of every game all throughout the playoffs. Going to have some fun with it. Really appreciate the support. You got questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got, throw it down there in the comments section. I'll try to get to as many of them as I possibly can. But just like the regular season of fantasy football, I'm looking for Headliner Nation to stay involved in the chats, talk to each other, learn each other, get to know each other. We're building a community. We're not just building a channel with some dude sits up here and talks football and everybody just sits there boring and watch. Get involved. This is a channel for the people. That will never change. Look forward to some future videos. Make sure you check them out here on the channel. If you're not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you later.